Hey, Dakota Franson here, Specialist of the Strange. Been a while since I've done one of these. So, let me get the camera adjusted there. Alright. So, I know these hidden files recordings that I've been doing have been kind of sporadic lately, but that's just because the situation's moving so fast. Being that it is quite obvious disclosure is taking place, I thought now would probably be the appropriate time to release an experiment. Before I came across, Alex Collier, Elena Dinan, and all them, I was introduced to Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 protocols. And those events triggered quite a few interesting outcomes. Whenever I would listen to the tones, I would feel literal electrical impulses moving in my mind that seemed to move in rhythm with whatever frequency I was playing with at the time. Then I also got a couple of other ideas on how I could compose these messages, these tones, quite easily, utilizing mirror images, using a process known as sonification. Say like crop circles as an example, There's, various different images in there that for the ones that have way too much weird surrounding them, for lack of a better word, there's some sort of message that's trying to be conveyed. Yes, there's quite a few that have been proven to be false. It happens. Some people are just way too damn bored. The process of sonification, I actually first became aware of it through the 2006 Doom game. The main composer for those games, Mick Gordon, he integrated the process to hide pictures inside the soundtrack of the game. This caught my curiosity. I quickly learned how to do it. It's fairly easy. The process of sonification, you can use a program called Sonic Photo. Basically what it does, it takes the lights, the whites and the darks of an image and converts those into sound. All right? And if you were to run whatever audio recordings that were produced with these sounds, with this process, through what's called a spectrogram, you would see pictures. There's one musician out there who used it to make a song about his cat. And if you play the song through a spectrogram, you actually see a bunch of cat pictures. So here's my thought process. What would happen if we adjusted the output frequencies just right that would have been known to affect the human mind as well as the central nervous system? And let's see, how do I put this? With the CE5 protocols, one of the suggestions to increase your odds of having some sort of encounter is to use like radio waves. Say if you got like a walkie-talkie on you, you take your phone, play the tones into the walkie-talkie, then the radio waves would help broadcast it out further. Now, if we were to take these tones, embed the images in the sound, get it to where it affects the human mind. If the CE5 tones are in fact influencing how the brain fires off, we can not only send out a broadcast using more, what would probably better be described as psychic methods, but we could secretly embed the very same pictures. We'll just draw a star here. Across both wavelengths to where our friends in the sky can hear it. That is the basis for this experiment. I have done this before. I have done trials before. You can look through some of my old videos. You can even look up my name, Dakota Franson, on most music distributors and actually find some of the recordings I've done. I utilized my company's music distribution partner in order to get it out as far and wide as possible. You can even use these tones as sounds on like TikTok and Instagram Reels. And I did my best to try to keep the price down as much as I could. You know, unfortunately, that's not all within my control. So I'm trying to make these as readily accessible as basically as soon as I knew it. There's been ones where I utilized communication sigils that had imagery built in that were supposedly relevant to certain beings. I fashioned them in what kind of would look like a Stargate in a way. Used certain imagery, such as like the Egyptian Ankh, as well as with certain interdimensional portals that seem to manifest as diamonds in certain cases. They would look like big diamonds, just kind of rotating. Integrated these images basically just to see what happens. There's also a protection one that has been used in cases of exorcism. It has also been utilized around individuals who have been compromised by grays, and these individuals would go into panic attacks among hearing it. So this stuff works. The signal I am utilizing tonight is supposed to be, for this next experiment, is another communications one. The imagery, I incorporated it into it, takes inspiration. I'm gonna find an old sock or something so that I can do this faster. The inspiration from it comes from the golden record that Carl Sagan organized to be sent up on the Voyager mission, as a way to give directions to any potential ETs that are passing by. Now, I know I'm familiar with the CE5 protocols. I know part of the meditation process is to essentially visualize the directions out there. Let's say I'm going to draw kind of like a rough image of what it would look like. I utilize tools put out by NASA in order to base the image of up until we get to Jupiter's orbit. That's all wonky, I know. I utilize these images from NASA resources to use as a bit of a template. Basically show the rough positions of the planets if you were to look up in the solar system down at like a flat model like this. The rough positions of the planets within their orbits during a set date, which will be today, the day you see this air. Along with it, I centered focus on the Earth, the orbit of the Earth, and sent out a binary sequence that's attached to it. With this binary sequence, it's essentially a proclamation saying that I honestly utilized it to identify myself. I figured it would be the best way to show that it's one of the good guys organizing this, for lack of a better word. On the grand scale of things, there's no such thing as good and evil, but someone who they're familiar with. And they can validate, has connections with our friends. I know that's kind of backwards, but it's supposed to be a Federation symbol. Basically show that it's someone that can be trusted that organized this. After this video message ends, you're going to hear it. The tones are centered around, basically are focused on, I can't talk right now. Oops. I kind of broke this when I moved into the new house. Like I said, utilizing the fact that the CE5 tones seem to affect the human brain. The output of this frequency is meant to stimulate the whole body, all the chakra systems, if you will, the entire neurological centers of the brain. And along with the radio waves that Wi-Fi utilizes, it'll also put you in a place where you broadcast out as well. If this works, it may take about 15 minutes at most, minimum, at most for something to show up. If this works, hopefully they will manifest to the point that we all can capture these images on camera. Whatever time zone it may be for you, feel free to play it whenever you like. I'm going to, depending on the results of this experiment, I will put this out through my music distributors as well in order to make it as readily accessible as I possibly can. And again, I will try to keep the cost down. As you know, money can be tight for a lot of us. So please reach out. If you decide to follow through with this experiment, reach out. Let me know what happens. I'll be waiting.